My name is Rachel Campbell. I am the chair of the Hamilton County Democratic Party. I am also the vice chair of the Tennessee Democratic Party. For the purposes of this meeting tonight, I'm going to stick with my vice chair role because I think that's where I'm going to be the most effective to communicate. I am going to ask everyone to go ahead and mute themselves, or here, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to mute everybody, and then I'll allow you to unmute yourselves when it's time for a Q&A at the end. But we're going to start off talking about what's happening at the Capitol. We're going to talk about that. Then we're going to talk about what the TNDP is doing. I see that there are other, my Hamilton County delegation is on, and I see that there's other members of the TNDP on tonight. And I'm going to give, we're all going to talk to you guys about what the TNDP has been doing. And then we're going to drive it a little bit more local and talk about what we can do locally. But for now, I'm going to start. Representative Hakeem, I'm thinking we could do this a little bit like we did our radio program the other day. I'm just going to ask you about what happened and what is going on. I'm going to let you answer those questions. Nathan Higdon, I see you on the call. And at some point, I'm going to call on you to talk about, because I know you were at the Capitol for those demonstrations. I'd like for you to give your perspective being at those demonstrations too. So I'm sure you don't mind, but I'm just go ahead and calling you out. But Representative Hakeem, can you give us a, for everyone on this call who doesn't already know, but a rundown of where we began and where we are now?
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Started, of course, with the death of the 3 students and 3 adults at Covenant School. And the community naturally became upset, and they wanted something done in regards to gun laws. And you had a massive pouring out of citizens who came to the legislature inside the rotunda and outside. We're talking thousands of people. And some of the comments that were made by citizens were, you have to do something. We need, gun laws that protect us. Children, literally, we're letting you know, they were scared to go back to school. And so as a result, once we all got inside, the legislators, inside the chambers, there was an effort to, talk about or bring up bills that were of so much importance to those persons who were there. And bottom line is the leadership of the majority party, Republicans, just sort of, in a sense, brushed it off. And that made not only to the citizens in the gallery and outside, but legislators were not afforded the opportunity to address the issues that the people were there about. And I believe some degree of frustration and wanting to respond to the citizens who were there. 3 of my colleagues, Justin Jones, Justin Pearson, and Johnson, Gloria Johnson, I'm sorry, decided to go up into the front of what we call the well, where we bring forth bills to be discussed and worked on. So when they did that, the interaction with the persons in the stands, that really got started because it wasn't just they decided, oh, we're going to go up front and do this. No, I think it was somewhat spontaneous because the frustration of not being heard, either legislators were not being heard, the people in the audience were not being heard. As a result of that, the speaker, Sexton, decided to call a halt to the meeting. And when he came back, the mindset was, I guess you could say, as harsh as it could be. And there was no thought of what degree of, we'll say, punishment or level of protest that was taking place. It was just, you have interrupted my meeting, and I'm going to the full extent I can, remove you from these chambers. That's, my 2 colleagues. And he did so. But what we are finding today, I guess a number of people probably have read it and heard about it, is that at this juncture, the Congress has asked the Department of Justice to investigate my colleagues being removed, being expelled. As I said, there's nothing in our guidelines or laws that say if a person protests, we're talking about a peaceful protest, that you're going to expel them. There are measures in between there, but he chose to go all the way. So as a result of that, DOJ is looking at it. And an example, you might find this hard to believe, even today in the legislature, there was an effort to prevent representatives from commenting on bills. You know, we have something called call a question. That means that no more debate on a bill, just a person who is making bringing forth the bill, and the person who called their question. And so that created another tense situation. And one of my colleagues, G.A. Hardaway from Memphis, asked the question, are you really going to do this, knowing what we've already been through over the past, we'll say, week and a half or 2 weeks? But they did, just as they had done before. And it's as though they didn't learn anything or appreciate anything that you need to hear from, if not the people themselves, their representatives. So in my view, what they did was double down, and we're going to go with it as, you know, as we have, we're in control, and that's it. I hope that's a capsule.
Yeah, and I don't know how many of you have been able to, and Representative Hakeem, I'm not sure if you've been able to listen to the leaked audio today from the Republican caucus's discussion regarding how this has affected them, because of course, as we know, everything is always about them and their victims, and they don't like being called racist, and that's really troubling to them. But I think if you haven't had a chance to listen to it and you only have time to listen to a portion of it, I suggest you listen to the last 3 minutes. What we heard a lot of, and I think you would agree with me, Representative Hakeem, was a lot of, we must make sure that the Democrats never get to speak ever, because we'll lose our republic if the Democrats take Tennessee. And it was really disturbing. And I wonder if what you think about that, and if you think that if they're radicals in that way, or if they just feed off each other in these small meetings.
Well, whichever it is of those two, they're giving a gift to Democrats. They are carrying themselves in an undemocratic way. And the kinds of people who were at the legislature were Democrats, Republicans, young, old, rural, urban. So the people are saying, we want to hear the voices of our representatives. And in a sense of speaking, again, they're doubling down. Now, as to what transpired with the today, I think, again, we just need to take advantage of that. What I mean by that, Tennessee is in the spotlight worldwide. My thought is that we need to start doing some things that bring the young people in, and those of us who've been around for a while, try to work with them, in addition to working ourselves. I'm saying, if we make that effort and show the nation that it's not going to be just those young men and Gloria Johnson and those of us in the legislature who have spoken up, but if we're in our community speak up, then we can get material support as well as moral support. But we've got to start making moves ourselves, and not just sitting back waiting on somebody to send some money or do something like that. We've got to start working now.
Yes, it looks like Representative Clemens has been able to jump in here, and I'll fill him in briefly. Representative Clemens, we were just, can you hear me? Make sure you're unmuted. There we go. I've asked you to unmute, so you should be able to unmute, caucus leader.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I am. We were just talking with Representative Hakeem about what happened at the legislature this week. And if you have anything to add, we were going over a narrative, and he was just talking about what we need to do now to mobilize in this moment while the eyes of the nation and the world are on Tennessee. And now that we have you on here, I'd love to get your opinion on that. And if you have anything you'd like to share with the group at large, now's your opportunity. I know you're coaching some, is it baseball for your boys, or?
Yeah, I've got to coach 2 games tonight. So I'm coaching a 8 and 9-year-old team right now, and I'm about to leave for 11 and 12-year-old game.
Got it. And if people don't know, Representative Clements is the House caucus leader for the Democratic caucus at the State House. So I'll turn the floor over to you.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity, and I'm sure I can't say anything better or more than what Representative Hakeem said. Thank you for having me join you tonight. I know that you guys are doing a lot of hard work down there in Hamilton County. We're looking at the numbers in Hamilton County and looking at it turn ever more purple and even bluer in certain areas, which is great.
Yep.
I think now is the time to take the opportunity and really take advantage of the opportunity we're presented right now through a very unfortunate situation. Maybe we can turn it into a positive. So I know Representative Keem's doing a lot of work on the ground down there. I'll be down there as often and whenever you need me.
Yeah.
I look forward to y'all's. I know y'all are going to have probably a fundraiser, I suspect, this spring and possibly another in the fall. And I look forward to that. Hopefully I can attend those. But right now, I mean, the big issue right now is capturing Gen Z and the young voters. The reality is, and we've talked about this multiple times, is, you know, I've spent the better part of the last 20 years trying to figure out how to communicate, mobilize, and organize young voters. And by young, I'm pretty liberal there. I mean, I'm talking anybody from 18 to 34.
Mm-hmm.
That population, if we increase the voter turnout of that age group, the political landscape across Tennessee pretty much shifts overnight. And right now we have their attention. It's time to take advantage of it. You know, they gerrymandered these lines based around people who actually vote in the past. And so the people who aren't voting are those 18 to 30, 18 to 40-year-olds aren't voting in numbers. So that's how we really can take advantage and actually overcome their gerrymandering. So we just have to do that. I would steer communications towards everyone, but really hone in on that younger demographic. You know, mobilize UT Chattanooga students, mobilize a lot of these groups that you have. You got a lot of young professionals flocking to Chattanooga for good reason.
Yeah.
You know, because you got the fiber. I mean, you got a lot of startups there. I mean, it's basically Nashville 20 years ago, and even more progressive in a lot of ways. So that would be my focus, and figuring out the best way to communicate your message in your region and in your city and county, and then just letting us know whatever we can do to help.
Okay. I had saved the question and answer portion to the end of the meeting, and I know you won't be able to be here for that. If there's some sort of imperative message that someone needs to ask you, you can put it in the chat right now, and I'll look through that and see. But what I don't know if what you can see is that people are thanking you for your voice on the floor. Thank you for your strong statements, along with the rest of the Democrats who were able to speak last week. Representative Clements, you were amazing on the House floor. So both of you were so instrumental in making sure that our other representatives who were expelled, or Representative Johnson, who narrowly escaped expulsion, thank you guys for standing up and supporting them, because we can't do that from the House floor, but you guys can. And we have Representative Hakeem here, and that's wonderful. But there's a lot of other counties across the state that don't have those, and they look to people like you and Yusuf and Justin and Gloria to represent them when their voices aren't heard. And you guys did such an amazing job at that. So let me see if there's any.
Well, thank you. Let me just say thank you to that real quick while you're looking at the chat, see if there's any questions. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I will say I was really proud of our entire caucus. Everybody did such a great job, stayed on message. We were unified and looked stronger than ever, not only to the state of Tennessee, but to the entire country and actually the world. I mean, we've all done international interviews at this point. And so, you know, I really think Tennessee Democrats came away from that looking really strong and united, which is key. Yeah.
It doesn't look like there's any imperative questions that can't wait until the end. In fact, I don't think I see a question. Just a lot of thank you to you. Well, here's a question from Wendy Proctor. Are there any plans for the Democrats in the House to demonstrate again as a whole group on the floor?
To demonstrate on the floor?
Well, yeah, like to support the expelled Democrats.
I was just saying, like, to get the attention, like if all the Dems went down on the House floor and did a demonstration again to just say, you know, you have to hear our voice. You have to hear the voice of the people we represent. We're not going to be silenced because we have a duty to our constituents. And 70% of Tennesseans want this. If you all went down on the floor, what would they do? What could they do?
Right. So there's no plans to do that right now. We're working through some different ways to take advantage of it and work within the rules on the House floor and in the body. We're probably what we're working on right now is really focused on the policy side. You know, all this originated not only from being silenced, but really our call for action on gun violence, this epidemic that's plaguing every community in our entire state. So right now we're trying to work on some policy to take action to get some stuff done. If that doesn't happen and if they railroad that, then we'll look at taking additional steps. But right now the plan is for us to adjourn for the entire session next Friday.
Okay, great. Brenda, I see your hand up. That's the last from the floor question I'm going to take because we're going to do a Q&A at the end. So go ahead, Brenda, but then I think we're going to wait till the end for a question and A session. So if you can unmute, go ahead.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. What he was saying sparked. One is, were you surprised at how severe the Republicans responded and to the Tennessee 3? The other one is there an avenue for which we can find out when a bill that we need to focus on and generate response to phone calls, emails, and so forth, as opposed to just trying to troll, new bills that are being, put before the House. The other thing I have found out,
Okay.
and following 883 and 745 is that there's all these caption bills where the initial couple of paragraphs don't really explain the real bill.
Okay, so if you can take those first questions, Representative Clemens or Representative Hakeem, either one, and then we'll save the rest of the questions to the end. And Brenda, if you want to put your hand down, that'd be great.
Yeah, so what we've been trying to do is, if you're not receiving the Tennessee House Democratic Caucus newsletter or some of our individual members' newsletters, we generally talk about what's coming up next and what happened in the past week for you to follow. Things moving through the subcommittees and committees. So I would encourage you to do that. We're still working out, ironing out that process, to be honest with you, and figuring out the most efficient way to do that to keep people in the loop. So there's so much legislation. I know it's like drinking out of a fire hose a lot of the times, and it's hard for those who aren't on the Hill to really follow along. It's hard for us on the Hill to follow along sometimes. With regards to the caption bills, yeah, the caption bills are kind of sneaky. Sometimes we use them. I'll file caption bills if I just don't have a piece of legislation drafted to the form that I want before the bill filing deadline. I'll just throw a caption in there. A lot of times we'll use those captions to catch something as we move through session that we might need later in sessions. And like just for this moment, where gun violence became a hot topic. So we were able to introduce and use some captions for some gun violence legislation. But then a lot of times it's used for kind of sneaky stuff. So you just have to keep an eye on it. And that's what we track constantly. And I forgot the very first question. Sorry.
Well, I can actually answer that first question. Mostly because Representative Clemens and I have talked about this several times. We're working together to put a better way to communicate between the House caucus and county parties and county party leadership to disseminate to our county parties. We can't just rely on social media to do that. So as we, sort of nail down the best way to get that communications, we're working hard on it. We'll be passing that along to the county parties as well. So, but he's been great about sending a lot of the stuff that you see on our Facebook or on our Twitter is coming directly from the House caucus. So, if you need to hop off, you can, but you're welcome to stay on the call. It's completely up to you, Representative Clemens.
Okay, I think we're about to bat, and I got to coach third base, so I appreciate it, everyone. I look forward to seeing you in person, and please let me know when you need me there, and I'll be traveling the state as soon as we get out of session. So I might just be showing up unannounced sometimes. So thank you for everything y'all are doing to make change in Hamilton County. I appreciate you.
Thank you for dropping in. Thanks. We'll hold the questions to the end. and make sure if you're not, that you stay muted, if you don't mind, just so we can clear background. We're going to talk about what we can do to talk about what each individual district is doing, but we're going to do that closer to the end. So let's see. Hey, Brenda, would you mind? Well, it still says that you're the speaker. That I don't know. Let me see if I can't fix that.
I took my hand down and I muted, so.
Okay, yeah, it may just be my computer. Let's see. So Speaker, Representative Keem, do you have anything else to add about what happened in the last week? And then if not, then we'll move on, and I'm going to bring ask Nathan to pop up on here and talk about what he experienced and what he felt like he got from the protest outside of the Capitol. And then we're going to start talking directly about what we're going to do moving forward.
I would ask that you go ahead and allow Nathan to make comments. If there are questions of me, I'm more than willing to answer. But
okay, you're with us for the duration.
Yes, yes.
I'm not letting you off the hook. Nathan, can you unmute? Are you on the call still?
I am, and I'm walking the dog. So
awesome. That's even better. Can you introduce yourself to the group? Because I know I'm putting you on the spot, and I would say I'm sorry, but I'm not. So
no, you're fine. No worries. I am Nathan Higdon. I am State Executive Committeeman for the 2nd Senatorial District, and I'm immediate past chair of the Blount County Democratic Party. And you might have seen me through my hat of co-leader of Indivisible Tennessee. That's where I speak a little more bluntly than I do when I'm wearing TNDP hats.
and what are you the committee chair of at the TNDP?
Oh, thanks. Sorry, I knew there was one more thing.
Yeah.
And I'm the chair of the Youth Engagement Committee, which I have made an incredibly concerted effort since getting the chairmanship of the committee to kind of rebuild the bridges between the high school, college, and young Democratic groups. Because, you know, the pandemic, as it's changed so many things in the world, it really impacted the college Democrat programs in the schools because folks weren't there. And so many of them were based upon the individual members. So I've been working really hard with the groups, and actually we've got a very open dialogue between the college and young Dems now, which makes me super excited. And they're working on collaborative things.
Okay, great. The reason that I wanted you to talk not just about your not just about the protest was because I'm so impressed with the work you're doing as the chair of the Youth Engagement Committee. And to Lynn's point of, do people know who he is? We will, as he's reaching out to individual young Dems and youth chapters to build that engagement. And that's what his job is for that group. So yes, he is making.
Sorry, Rachel, that was in response to a suggestion of getting Al Gore involved. I just don't know who Al Gore is. So
I do, but not everyone does. I'm heartbroken to know that my 19-year-old had no idea who Al Gore was. So yes, it was heartbreaking. Nathan, can you tell us about what it was like to be in the protest and what you took from that?
Yeah, so I had planned on going down for, I guess, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's only been a week. Last Monday for the, I believe it was last Monday for the vote, the expulsion vote. And when we got word that that was going to happen at 5 p.m., we were having a rally outside of Representative Tim Burchett's office that afternoon. And so as soon as that ended, we hopped in the car. Well, everyone ran home, packed up, and we hopped in the car and headed to Nashville. And I was up in the galleries that night, those of us who were all there. And, you know, then when they called for the expulsion, that's when they kicked us all out because we got a little rowdy. But I had noticed, you know, one of the reasons that drew me down there, excuse me, let me go that direction. One of the things that drew me down there is that, you know, far too frequently our legislators don't have enough support from home coming to Nashville. You know, the GOP folks seem to have nothing but time to rally behind their people. And so there were a bunch of us when we talked, we're like, we've got to hop in that. So there were 4 of us who went down from Knoxville area. And we drove down because like, this is going to be ugly and they're going to need our support. And they're just going to need to know that they've got like-minded individuals there, that other Dems are there, although we can't impact anything that's going on the floor. And so we went down for that, and it was just really kind of, it was gross and heartbreaking and disconcerting all at the same time.
Yeah.
And so we had stayed the night and then went to the Senate committee hearings for one of the gun bills the next morning, which got bumped. And then, we turned right back around and we were down there for Thursday for the votes. And that was impressive. And this circles back to everything that's been talked about so far, was to see a youth-led movement descend upon the Capitol and throughout the state to engage people. And it's something that I would actually challenge all organizers. I mean, nothing made me feel older than to realize that I'm no longer a youth and I don't even feel that old. But,
Same.
at 44, it's time for me even to step away. And it was reassuring to know that there are enough folks around the state who are going to continue this fight on the ground that, I don't have to be at every rally anymore. But
Right.
to answer your question, when the votes happened that Thursday, it was absolutely so gross. And it's something that I'll tell people when I'm speaking at events. Like, I'm 7th generation East Tennessean, and absolutely nothing that went down in Nashville last week, I mean, to be clear, nothing that's gone down in Nashville for about the past 15 years is anything that my family for the past 250 plus years has fought for. And so how I felt, it was just, it was gross. I just felt gross about the whole thing, but it energized me to know that if we can engage people, we can in fact make a change. And the thing I keep having to remind people is that, we're going to have to suffer through it for the legislative session next year, but then we can get some people elected in the fall of next year.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things Representative Hakeem and I were kind of talking about I was invited to do a radio program with him last weekend. And one of the things that I thought about that was so, I just got done raising kids. I have a 23-year-old and a 19-year-old. They're just out of high school. So there was a time where they didn't get to go anywhere or do anything without my permission. They had to get my permission to go travel anywhere or to go do anything. In fact, when it was time to go rally for the Women's March, I had to, they even asked me, can I do this? Of course you can, but there was, I know a lot of students there. And when you think about the fact that they needed their parents' permission to get there, to go there. So not only was it the young people there, but by proxy, it was the parents of those young people saying, you know what, this matters enough for me to turn loose of you to go to another city to organize and protest on put yourself in the possibility of maybe even being arrested or being assaulted and being in rooms with large groups of people. And they showed up every single day. And a lot of those kids were on spring break and they were there because their parents said they could. So we didn't just mobilize those kids, we mobilized their parents. And I know Representative Hakeem, you felt the same way when we talked about it. That's something that we agreed on, that, it's not just kids that are protesting, it's moms letting their kids go and activating them and allowing them to feel that civic muscle and really flex it. I'm really excited about what that means. So if you'll stay on the call, Nathan, we're going to talk about some TNDP stuff before too long. So don't ditch out on me yet. But
I'm happy to. Hopefully that answered what you were looking for.
It did. I wanted to know if you felt like there was and I think it answered, but I'll ask it again. I wanted to know if you felt like there was a different, sometimes when you're in a large group, I felt this way for the first time ever at the very first Women's March that I attended after Donald Trump was elected. I felt this excitement and this level of urgency and just this new feeling that I'd never felt before in that group. And I wonder in that moment, and I wonder if you felt that same feeling coming from these young people, like, wow, we really have activated this group of people and now they're not going to go anywhere.
It was contagious because
Yeah.
I was getting a little beat down with this legislative session myself. And now I'm like, throw me back in, kids.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's what I think. That's what I think too. And I know, Yusuf, you told me you felt the same way, just seeing that when we talked last week. I think it's exciting to me to see you, Yusuf, or Representative Hakeem, but I think of him as Yusuf as my friend, to see you so excited about the level of engagement from different people. And he'll be the first to tell you that if he's got something he needs to be accountable for, he is all for it. We've got to like really be riling together. And I'm really excited about the level of just engagement that we're seeing with this new group of young people. And it is about talking to them, engaging them, and giving them the solution. Yes, gun violence is bad, but you know how you get rid of gun violence? You vote in legislators who will get rid of gun violence. That you got to talk about the problem and talk about the solution. And I'm so excited to see so many people being willing and ready to have that conversation. Chris and Rakita and Ryan, I see that you guys are on the call. Chris Anderson, Rakita Dotley, and Ryan Schofield are the executive committee members from the TNDP for Hamilton County. I'm really lucky. I just have one district, but now as vice chair, I have the state. But Chris and Rakita have more districts than Hamilton County, so they work harder than we do. They've got rural counties that they're trying to organize right now. I've done a lot of talking today and in the last week, and so I'm going to back off a little bit about talking about what the TNDP is doing, except for to say this one thing. I've heard a lot about how the TNDP, we need to be doing more. And Nathan, make sure you're unmuted. And if you're from the TNDP and you're on this call, unmute yourself so you can feel free to add and join this conversation. I want any TNDP member on the call to be able to involve themselves in this conversation. One thing that I've heard a lot this week is, where was the TNDP? Where was the TNDP? I'm not even going to address that. I'm going to, because I feel like I'll be a little defensive about it. So I'm going to turn that over to Chris, because I know Chris has thought about this and has something he'd like to add to the conversation. So Chris Anderson, if you can unmute and hop on into this part of the conversation, that'd be great.
Thanks, Rachel. And I've heard that a little bit too, you know, what's the party doing? What's the party doing? And the thing is, when something like this happens, I think a lot of people feel like, I want to do something to fix it right now. So I'll tell you what the party did. And this wasn't about the Democratic Party. It's not about the people on this call. It's about Representatives Jones, Pearson, and Johnson. And what the party did was offer them support, pay for their travel to several locations. And when I say the party, I mean the TNDP, paid for their travel, paid and set up a lot of events and a lot of press events, and helped them with a lot of that communications so that they could shine, so that the story could be about them, so that they could be on MSNBC, so that they could do what they needed to do, which is be the faces of this. So the party's been really involved in it, but not up front. And that's not the job of the party. We need to put the candidates and the elected officials up front, because that's who really carries our message in the most effective way. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, the Democratic Party is represented by our Democratic candidates. And in moments like this, when the leadership from the TNDP was talking to these representatives, one of the things they were saying was, thanks for your support, but this is our moment. This is our time, and we can speak for the Democratic Party right now through the experience that we're having. Now we have to organize around what just happened. Now the TNDP has to move into organizing phase. Now we have to try to gather up this excitement and translate it into mobilizing these voters. And one of the ways that we're going to do that, and we're going to talk in just a minute about what we're going to do locally, but one of the ways that we're going to do that is we're going to register voters. We're going to organize college campuses with the help of the Youth Engagement Committee at the TNDP. We are going to collect every email address that was given to us at every event that we showed up, every phone number, every dollar that we raised came with an email address attached to it. We're going to mobilize those email addresses, and we're going to talk to our voters, and we're going to teach those people how to become activists and organizers. We're going to engage with organizations like Indivisible Tennessee, Change TN when it comes to endorsing candidates, March for Our Lives. You know, one thing that was important to remember is that when it came down to being at a press conference, the TNDP's logo should not and did not belong right next to the March for Our Lives logo. This moment was about young people dying at school and being tired of it, and finding legislators that were speaking for them and letting those legislators speak. And everything that happened afterward is all in a direct reaction to, frankly, slain children in schools. And we can never forget that this came about because children died. And I'm very, very tired of hearing this refrain that young people need to sit down and wait their turn. We don't tell them to sit down and wait their turn, because when they sit down and wait their turn, they die. When they sit down and wait their turn, we have legislators that don't listen, and they have to take their spring breaks to go march on the Capitol. We should be doing that. We should have helped them before now. It's time for us to sit down and wait our turn. Nathan likes to say this all the time, and I'm trying to live by it. The young people are not the future of our party. What are they, Nathan?
They are the party.
That's right. They are not the future. They are here now. So we got to energize them. We got to talk to them. We have got to talk to our kids. If you've got kids, you got to talk to them. You got to talk to their friends. We got a lot of work to do, and it starts locally, and then we move to the state. But we are organizing and we are working. Does anyone else from the TNDP want to add? And Nathan, do you have anything else to add to what I just said? And then I'll move to anybody else from the TNDP.
Rachel, can anybody participate?
Yes, but we're going to hold questions till the end.
No, I don't have a question. I just want to make a comment.
Well,
Yusuf was on MSNBC the other day. His comments were absolutely on target.
Okay.
If we could only get some of our young people to be interviewed by some of the same, broadcasters, that would be great.
Okay, thank you. Nathan, did you want to hop back onto this?
Sure.
Yeah.
Everything that you said really resonated, and Chris as well. The really important part, or the really important job for the party, is literally to uplift all of these youth-driven organizations right now. And back to your point, by not plastering TNDP's logo on everything and not trying to center everything around TNDP, allowed us to give people seats at the table. And then by not trying to interject, we actually got to listen to what they had to say. And so that's the important part, because it's enough to give someone a seat at your table, but it's another to not let them speak. And that was the important thing. And I think it's an incredible job that the party, as TNDP, did, was to let the people who were impacted speak. So yeah, I just wanted to uplift what you're saying and really drive that home. That's incredibly important.
It's hard because you just want to be like, we're doing it, we're here, but it's hard also to shut up.
And for someone who's a marketing person by trade, the way that it went down by TNDP is exactly how, if I were billing TNDP and having given them strategic advice last week, that's exactly what I would have suggested. Get the hell out of the way and let the kids do it.
Yeah.
Is Chairwoman Dotley still around?
Chairwoman Dotley, are you on the call? I think she is. Let's see. Rakita, are you on? Yes, she's on. Can you unmute, Rakita? Yusuf, did you want to talk? She's on the call. Let's see. She's not got her camera on. She may be. I know she's got a lot going on.
She's in another multitasking right now. She's there now. She's got a lot more duty, as you well know, Representative.
Yes. Okay.
In case you guys don't know, our executive committee woman Dotley was just elected to chair of the Chattanooga City Council. We're all really proud of her here in Hamilton County. Is there anyone else from the TNDP that wants to hop on this part of the conversation?
I'll be more than happy to. I'll kind of go off of what Rachel was saying about people saying we weren't present. We have to keep in mind that all the kids that were in Nashville were there as Tennesseans who are scared to go to school, not as Democrats, not as independents, not as Republicans. So I think the state party did a perfect job just letting this whole thing go on its own and us be there to support in the background.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's important that we have, the TNDP has, we have a lot we can do. We have a lot to do. But this last week, we did what we needed to do to be able to support our legislators and our youth and the people that were there supporting our youth. So now we need to talk about what the TNDP needs to do. And now we need to talk about what the HCDP needs to do. And we need to talk about what we can all collectively do to make some change in Tennessee. So the TNDP was able to raise some money. So I know we're planning on hiring some more people to start doing some outreach in different parts of the state. Hopefully put some field people out when we get into campaign season. Right now, the chair and I, but mostly the chair, if I'm being honest, he is actively recruiting candidates to run statewide races and state house races and state Senate races. Here in Hamilton County, we have a really big opportunity to flip a couple house races and a state Senate race. We'll talk about that in a minute, but I know that that's what the TNDP is doing. Looking for people to run for office is a really difficult job because in Tennessee, we're so gerrymandered that some of these races are really, it's like, hey, do you mind going into this area where you're going to get piled on by a bunch of MAGA Trumpers and you probably aren't going to win anyway? But we still need to find people who are willing to make that take that case and make that choice, because like Representative Clemens was saying and Representative Akeem were saying, the way that we're gerrymandered takes into consideration past voting habits and not new voting habits. So we don't actually know what our new electorate will look like. We don't really know who is voting where. We don't know what the activated youth vote is going to be next year. And I don't want anyone to get it into their head and think that next year we're going to flip the supermajority. We're not. This is not a next year everything changes. We are in a marathon, as my friend reminded me yesterday. You know who you are. We are in a marathon, not a sprint. We're not going to get over the finish line right away. But damn it, y'all, we've got to do better than we're doing. So the first thing we got to do is start doing active candidate recruitment. Most county parties start that process themselves. They know their districts better than anyone else. They know their community leaders better than anyone else. And then we take those candidates and we present them, we get them to talk to the TNDP or to the vice chairs across the state. And then we start helping them figure out the best way to manage their campaigns. We have to talk to voters and we have to explain to voters, like, look, this shit's going on, right? And maybe you don't know about it, but it's going on, but here's the way that you fix it. If your dog is hurt, you don't just acknowledge the dog is hurt, you acknowledge the dog is hurt, and then you say, hey, let's take it to the vet. You guys, we have to be talking to voters and we have to register new voters. And we're lucky that the TNDP and the DNC was able to dump a bunch of data into our vote builder, which is our voter database of unregistered possible voters. So we know where to start. But where we really are going to start on college campuses and high schools again, where we are allowed to register voters on high schools and places like that. So we have opened up, this tragedy has opened up a whole level of activism across this entire state. And we're going to rope that in and we are going to push it back out. And I'm really excited about what I think we're going to be able to do moving forward. One of the things in Hamilton County, if I can get a little bit more into the local here, one of the things that we're going to do in Hamilton County that's never been done before, and it's currently in the process of being planned, let me say this in the proper way. We're going to be announcing district task forces tonight. We'll be sending signups to each of you soon. We're going to do this district by bloody district. If you're in District 26, we're going to reach out to you and we're going to tell you what your legislator is doing. And we're going to tell you what they voted on and how terrible they are. And we're going to ask you to run for office or support someone running for office. And we're going to ask you to do the work in your district. That work means showing up and knocking doors, phone banking, writing postcards, talking to your neighbors, talking to your friends and your loved ones, donating money if you can't do those things. It means engaging with your county party, engaging with your state party, engaging with the representatives that you already have. Representative Hakeem is up for re-election next year. We're going to be supporting him in that. So we're going to do this district by district. This has not been done before, and it's a new way that we're going to try. And we're going to do this district by district, and we're going to have task force. We're going to have issue oriented organizing. All of those things are going to happen. And this is a new way in which we can talk to each other and organize around these issues. That's something that you guys will be receiving a sign-up sheet. If you're in the county party or in the state party or coming from other areas, you're welcome to join us in this. It took a long time to get where we're at. We did not lose Tennessee overnight. We just happened to lose it right before the GOP came in at a decade space where they could gerrymander, where we elected them in time where they were able to take over writing the maps. And so we got to hold them accountable for that. And we got to run candidates in every single race. When Democrats have people to vote for, they show up and they vote. And even if it feels hopeless and you feel like I can't, I'm never going to be able to flip this super rural red area, but your vote could help flip a Senate candidate statewide. We need every vote we can get for those statewide races, for the gubernatorial races. You don't want Marsha Blackburn anymore? Show up. You don't like Chuck Fleischman? Show up. Recruit someone to help us run. Show up. Ask us what you can do to help. We'll tell you. We're not shy. We'll tell you, and then we'll ask you for some money to help us support these candidates that are going to run. Ben Connor makes the good point that Montrell lost by 20 votes. Every single vote matters. Every door matters. We need them all. Ben Connor and David Sharp ran in a district that was essentially just a little bit better than 50-50. And they won 67 and 68% of their votes because they talked to the electorate and they knocked doors and they called and they held events and they talked to people. And that's how they won. And that's how we're going to win. We're going to do it piece by piece, county by county, district by district. But damn it, we are going to start taking these seats back because we have to. We don't have a choice. Our children demand that we do better. And let me tell you something that's been going on in Hamilton, in Chattanooga this month, that is horrifying. If you're not paying attention to what's happening at City Council in Chattanooga, you need to go watch the live streams. Councilwoman Dotley is on this call, and if she's able to touch base in here, she can tell you. Mayor Kelly and this Chattanooga City Council have approved a beautiful, wonderful climate plan so we can continue to turn Chattanooga and keep Chattanooga as beautiful and clean and wonderful it is, reducing carbon emissions, making it easier to be a less car-driven city. We'll have more sidewalks. Car to buses will be electric by like 2050. It's great. It's wonderful. But what they got out of that was a bunch of lunatics at City Council spewing about God knows what, talking about George Soros and the World Economic Forum and global citizenry, and talking about how people who've moved here from California are now refugees here, and they're not going to let Tennessee turn into what California was. Well, we didn't ask you to come here and fix us. We didn't ask you to come talk about what you want in Chattanooga. We didn't invite you here. We're happy you're here, but you're not going to come here and you're not going to make our community worse. So we need to be paying attention to what we are up against. And we no longer have the luxury of saying my voice doesn't count. Every single bloody vote matters. Every single vote matters. So yes, if you have somebody to run in your district, that's great. Even if it feels like a non-winnable district, you still need to vote. You still got to show up. You still got to campaign. You still got to support. Montrell Besley lost by 20 votes in a district that's winnable. In Eastridge, we lost a school board race we never were supposed to have a chance of even coming close to, but we got this close. These seats are flippable. These school board seats matter because they're the ones who are making policy with the Democratic county or the county commissioners that is going to protect our kids in schools. So it's not just about what you're doing at the state level. It is about what you're doing at the local level. Because we've got to elect school board members that are Democrat, county commission members that are Democrat. We need to be paying attention super closely to municipal elections, because just because it says nonpartisan doesn't mean that we shouldn't support Democrats that are running for office. We've got to pay attention. Can't look away. We can't pretend like it doesn't matter. We can't pretend like we're not all in this together. We are all in this together, y'all. Those people that are showing up at city council are scary, and they think they can win by intimidating and by making us feel like we're bad people. It's not us. We are not the problem. We are not the problem. Jill makes a good point. 6 seats will be on the August ballot in 2024 with nothing but primary candidates for state and federal offices, including her. We have school board members up next year. I hope y'all are planning on showing up. We're going to have someone to run in every race. We're going to do our very bloody hardest to get someone to run in every single race, a good Democrat that you can be proud to show up for. And we're going to educate you district by district about what your Republican representatives are doing and what Representative Hakeem is having to. You think he likes being the only Democrat from Hamilton County? No, I can promise you he doesn't. We've talked about it. It's not fun for him. We're lucky to have him. So that's, sorry, I got on my soapbox for a minute there and I didn't mean to. So I think when we're talking about the TNDP, we're going to be organizing districts. We're going to be educating voters. We're going to be launching like field organizers in the different parts of the state next year. And we've been lucky that this last week has been a boon for the TNDP too. And we're going to use that money well to support our candidates. And we're going to continue to raise up Representatives Pearson and Representatives Jones and Representative Johnson, but particularly the Justins, as I call them. They're superstars. They're the future of this party. They are a future Senate candidate. Let's keep their voices heard. Let's keep their voices elevated. They are the young people. So does anybody have, let's go ahead and open it up for a Q&A. I'd like to limit this to about 30 minutes. So, and really, if you have a question, not really commentary time, just keep it to questions. So if you have a question and answer, feel free to raise your hand or unmute and I'll just open the floor up. It's going to be hard for me to see all the hands raised. So try to be respectful of one another. And Representative Hakeem, if you'd like to unmute, that way if anybody has any questions, you can get right to answer. And if you have TNDP questions, just say who you'd like to answer. Nathan's still on the phone. Chris, Rakita, Ryan are still on the phone. So Marlene says, is there a website I can go to that shows me how my legislators voted? I do think there is. I don't know it off the top of my head, but if your email is in the chat, I will make sure that I get that to you. And yes, Chris makes the point that every Hamilton County Republican voted to expel all 3. Every one of them did. Not a single one of them. And Greg Martin, by the way, guys, Greg Martin's a county commissioner. We know where he is every Wednesday. You got something to say? We know where he's at. Oh, he's not anymore?
And just a comment about, I got a response from both Martin and Patsy Hazelwood in writing, saying, no, you know, those guys were out of control, whatever, which told me a lot. They were the only 2 who responded. First of all, their letters were almost exactly the same, which tells me they were responding with written talking points from the party. But yes, it means they need to be targeted. I used to think Patsy Hazelwood was a relatively reasonable Republican. Not anymore. You know, I know she's racist now, and we need to defeat her, Martin, and all the rest of them.
Yeah. Chris, did you say he's not a county commissioner anymore? Because Warren called me today and told me he was.
Warren is incorrect. My coworker Ken Smith is the recently
that's right,
appointed commissioner for District 3.
That's right. That's right. I knew that too. That's what I get for having too long of a conversation with Warren. You gotta love him, but you gotta pay attention. Okay. Does anybody have a question that they just unmute and start, or I mean, a comment, but if it's a comment, let's make it quick. A question for anybody in this room, just unmute and start talking.
Rachel, how do we get activated to get young people out to the polls? I mean, I've worked the polls now since '96 and we just don't see kids voting.
Well, I mean, I think that's what we're talking about tonight is, you know, we see that they themselves are feeling energized and feeling activated and feeling scared. And so I think part of that is they have to have their own accountability to say, if I feel this way now, I'm going to feel this way next year and I'm going to vote. But we also have to remind them with targeted ads, knocking on doors, phone banking, going to schools and talking about creating, you know, making sure that young Dems chapters and college and high school Dems chapters are reestablished. That's something that Nathan's working on. So Nathan, if you have anything to add to the answer to that question, feel free. But I think it's a matter of just talking to young Democrats and giving them a space to, you know, flex their new activist muscle and remind them that they need to go to the polls and vote and bring their friends.
I do have a quick question, if that's okay.
Yeah.
In regards to the young kids and the reach out to them, does the Hamilton County Democratic Party have any kind of social media presence on TikTok or anything like that? Because I know that's where my high schooler basically gets all of his information right now. So I was just curious if you'd looked at using those avenues.
Frank, do you want to talk a little bit about the youth caucus? But I will say that right now we had a TikTok, but we needed to pull it due to security issues from the state. The cybersecurity people from the state asked us to take that down until we were able to secure our own. We have to find like a dummy email that we can apply to that account so that our own files aren't messed up. But Frank, do you want to talk about that? You're our outreach chair.
Yeah, thank you. Real briefly.
Let me introduce Frank real quick in case you don't know. Frank, this is Frank Mauricio. He is the vice chair of the Hamilton County Democratic Party. He's also the chair of our outreach committee.
And a member of the communications committee. Excuse me. We met yesterday, the night before. We are being more aggressive in terms of our social media. Rachel correctly addressed the TikTok issue. We did have a TikTok account. Number one, there were the security issues which have been well publicized nationwide. And then we also, you know, we want to do it right. And we're new at it and we want to get it right so that it can be most effective for us. But yeah, we are definitely aware that social media is the way to go. We are very excited that we've, under Rachel's leadership, we've established a youth caucus that is going to look specifically at youth issues, obviously, work with a UTC, hopefully get those folks reinvigorated. And the youth and the youth voters are definitely on our radar and our priority for us.
One of the cross sections that we found in the last few months with the HCDP particularly and with the TNDP, you know, broadly, our young people are also a big part of our LGBTQ plus community. And with what the horrible people at the Capitol, the horrible Republicans at the Capitol have targeted in a terrible, horrible, hateful, violent way, have targeted our LGBTQ plus community. And we're seeing them really rise up and make a stand too. And a lot of those people are also young people who are feeling just doubly sort of, you know, terrorized by this terrible, horrible. There's Jared talking about Jared Walker is the chair of our youth caucus. He's also an executive committee member, and he reminds you that we have events this weekend. We're really lucky to have Jared. He showed up at every single event we had last year to volunteer. He's one of those people that we're talking about. He shows up, he volunteers, even when we didn't get what we wanted in the election. He took a minute to regroup and then he came back. And so we're seeing this cross section of people that the state that our Republican Party is targeting. The queer community, our own Hamilton County mayor targeted them for violence. And then we see that really bringing out the youth too. So we have to find ways to talk about everything together so that we can, it can organize everyone to vote. And it just is a part, it's showing up. It's just showing up. And we're really lucky to have people in Hamilton County and within the Hamilton County Democratic Party that are in our allies, that even at the state, that are dedicated to changing things. And people know I brag on Chris a lot, but I'm gonna brag on him again here for just a minute, and I'm not gonna give away any state secrets. But when things started going bad for the for our LGBTQ plus community last year, when we had when our own Hamilton County mayor incited violence against the queer community here right before Pride, instead of getting mad and doing nothing, Chris jumped in the gap there and got a sitting congressman to come and speak at our Pride festival. He is organizing a legal space for the LGBTQ community to become a more activated community, and all of that cross purposes with the youth community as well. So the ways that we can find common ground across all of our communities is the way that we are going to organize. We're going to do this piece by piece by piece, and we're going to take this town and this city, or this city, this county, and this state back, because we don't have the luxury of not doing it. We have to do it. And the crazies are loud. I hate to call them, I shouldn't use that word, but the extremists, try that word. The extremists are loud and they're showing up, but we're here too. So we better start showing up. We have to meet their extremism with our own activism. We can't let them be the only ones that are being listened to anymore. We have to start fighting back. Brenda, I see your hands up, so if you'd like to unmute, you're welcome to.
I have a question for the representative Hakeem. Was he surprised at the reaction to the Tennessee Three when they spoke out in the well about gun safety issues after the Nashville shooting?
Okay, really, I in my view, they went after the, we'll say, Tennessee Three, because they did not want to talk about gun laws and making the necessary changes. But even in doing that, they miscalculated that, you know, the young people and Representative Johnson, you know, they have that passion, that willingness, you know, to do what is in the interest of all of the children, and they miscalculated, and they thought they could just bully people, and that's not going to work with, you know, the age group we're talking with. And quite frankly, it energized a number of us in the legislature who some days you just feel beat down and you just have to get up and go another day. But it showed us that we can make the changes we want if we stick together. And as Chairman Clemens was saying, that was something that was really outstanding of the Democratic legislators. We all stayed together. It made a difference.
Yeah. Jill, I see you have your hand up. If you'd like to go ahead and unmute and ask your question or make your comment.
I was just going to say, when I was knocking doors last summer, half of my pitch was just voter education. It wasn't really even about me. I could tell when I was at the door, my campaign targeted, you know, a wide vast of likely voters, and then every new voter that had been registered since 2020. So I was at the doors of people who had never voted, who had maybe registered in high school, and I was explaining to them like what a local election is, who was on the ballot, how important those seats were. I mean, sometimes it's just having those conversations when we're door knocking.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah. It's great when we have candidates that are running for office and we're in the middle of the candidate cycle and candidate season, because we have candidates that are carrying our message for us when we're not, and when they're knocking doors. But in a year like this, when we're in a building year, and we need to be talking to our voters, we have to go to our voters and talk to them. We got to go to voters and talk to them. We got to knock those doors and register those voters and gather their data and follow them and harass them and remind them that, hey guys, there's an election this year, and it's not just November. It's not just November. Our local candidates, we build a bench for the state house and the state senate and the Congress and gubernatorial and Senate. We build a bench from people like Jill, who's an outstanding school board member who stands up for kids every single day with Ben. She stands up every day and she supports the trans youth in our community. She pushes back when they want to ban books for no bloody reason. You want to talk about making a change, start there. And those elections aren't in November. They're in August. So it's not just about voting in November. We got to vote early. We got to vote often. We got to vote every single time. And if you can get a young person to vote once, you can turn him into or her into a habitual voter. All it takes is one time. We got to keep them not being discouraged. We got to keep them going. That's our job. That's our job as the elders to them, is to keep them going. Amy Lacey, if you'd like to go ahead.
Yeah, I had a question. Has anyone ever considered reaching out to like the Christian? I know how they say like the evangelical Christians are always Republican, they always vote Republican, and it's usually on issues like one issue, whether it's abortion or it's gay stuff, anti-gay stuff, homophobia. Has anyone ever tried to reach out to them and say, you know, just wondering, you know, have you ever considered, you know, here's the pros and cons. Are you pro, you know, the slaughter of children in schools because of gun violence? You know, are you willing to, and the racism and all this that Tennessee, you know, like, are you willing to vote for Republican every single time just because you're against gay marriage? You're willing to see, you know, the assault weapons and the gun violence and all that. And, you know, just really, I mean, has anyone ever reached out to the Christian evangelicals and say, you know, is it worth it, you know, for this one issue that you're against, you know? Because I can just say, I spoke to my mother's pastor right after January 6th, and I asked him, you know, do you still support them? And he said, well, I have to say I do. I'm still going to have to support Republicans because the one thing I'm so worried about is that, you know, if I ever was asked to marry a gay couple, I can't do that because it's against my religion and I don't want to get sued over that. And I'm like, really? That's your stand your ground kind of thing? Like that's your one issue?
Right, yeah. Well, if I can just break in to talk about that just for a second. I want to be mindful and I want to be respectful of you, Representative Hakeem, because I know that you are a man that's of a deep faith. And you know, when you're talking about evangelicals, you're talking about white evangelicals. We need to be real clear that the members that, yeah. And I want to make sure everyone on this call understands, which is not, I'm not speaking directly to you.
A lot of them do not keep up with the news and what is actually going on. A lot of them do not, especially locally.
Yeah.
Too.
So I think, you know, Representative Hakeem, let me hand this over to you just for a minute, because I do want to talk about you know, I just want to touch briefly on the fact that when it comes to the Black
electorate. In fact, can I
electorate.
interrupt one more time and just say one of the members of that church was completely unaware that Roe v. Wade was overturned right after it got overturned. Like they do not even keep up with what's going on. So,
yeah, there is definitely a brain drain on the Republican side of the street when it comes to information, because they're getting it from places like Newsmax, Fox. And so, you know, when we're talking about, you know, engaging with voters, when we're talking about educating them, those are one of the ways. But Representative Hakeem, I mean, I think you can speak to the fact that for, you know, particularly in the Black community, a lot of political organizing is done from church or from the faith community. I know I've been in, you know, when I'm talking about organizing and outreach to the minority community, it starts at church.
Yes. Yeah, that's been the case since the 1950s. And there was a time, we'll say in the 80s, where some business people, in a sense of speaking, wanted to take that over. But that base has continued to be in the church. So I think we have to go where our fertile ground is. And then we can, that rocky area, we can go there, but let's not use too much time because we have enough fertile ground. If you look at 2022, November of 2022, less than 39% of the eligible citizens in the state of Tennessee voted.
That's right.
So we have a lot of ground, a lot of areas that we can go into where, like I said, we can work on that rocky ground, but let's might consider where it's fertile right now. We have a greater opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to
Okay.
like misinformation, and that's a struggle for me. My mom is all of her life was just a Reagan Republican, voted every once in a while. Then Trump came along, and man, that woman would stand in line and for hours to vote in the rain, hungry to vote for the man. And she won't watch anything but Fox News, Newsmax. She won't pay attention to anything but that. In fact, I haven't talked to her in a couple of weeks because we've gotten a big argument over Tucker Carlson releasing the January 6th footage, and she was trying to convince me that I was crazy and I didn't see what I saw. It's one of those situations where when it comes to the religious community, and I want to be clear, I'm talking about white evangelicals, until something happens to them, they're not likely to change their mind. I mean, look at Bill Lee, and I don't want to give that man any props. So please don't mistake what I'm about to say, because I don't have any respect for that man. He's talking about signing an executive order, expanding background checks, and he's talking about red flag laws, right? That doesn't mean anything. But the reason he's doing that is partially because I think he was a little unnerved. And I think the Capitol protest and the movement there meant something to him. But someone that his wife loved died at Covenant. One of his wife's friends died at Covenant College. And so I think when it comes to people that refuse to let themselves be educated, they will change their mind when something happens to them that matters. When their daughter is sexually assaulted and can't get an abortion, or now if you are having a miscarriage and you can't get I can't pronounce the word, but y'all know what I'm talking about, the abortion medication. When we're forcing a loved one to carry a baby to term, they might start paying attention then. But some of these evangelicals, you're not going to change their mind until it happens to them, until it's something that they have to go through, which is, I think, why it matters so much about what these young people are dealing with. And they're telling us they're scared. The other thing I do want to say is we had a wonderful minister who ran, Jeff Krim. He ran for School Board 10. And that was a district that's really difficult. And he still ran and he fought the good fight. And he came at it with love from a position of faith. And we've got to find more people like him, Amy, who have a faith background and want to share that. We're also at the TNDP is now beginning their own caucus program. We have a new caucus chair, and we are launching a faith caucus. Now, that's not something I'll be a part of, but it is an opportunity for people of faith to organize together across the state. And when we're talking about TNDP caucuses, that doesn't mean that you have to be in the TNDP to be in that caucus. It just means you have to identify and feel that when you say, hey, I want to be in that caucus. So we have different ways that we're going to try to organize.
The one reason I had mentioned reaching out to the Christians was because of the school shooting. It was at a Christian school. I thought maybe that was an avenue.
I think it was. I already think it was. A lot of those people that were at the Capitol went to private school. Some of them went to Covenant, and they did a walk out of school and off they went, and their parents went with them. In fact, I think one of the most moving photos that we saw, I believe it was Representative Pearson. He was hugging a Covenant mom while she thanked him. And I have to believe that this changed something for her. And now she will be an activist. I've been so disheartened when it comes to gun safety because, I remember when Sandy Hook happened. My husband rarely cries. He's not a crier. Most of you people probably know him, and imagine Billy crying. Can you even? But when Sandy Hook happened and he saw President Obama up there talking to those mothers, he started crying. And he said, if this doesn't change things, nothing will. Well, it didn't change anything, and nothing has changed. And so now we got to do it. We're just going to have to force it. We got to elect people. We got to vote. We don't have anything else we can do other than show the Republicans in the state. Listen to that call. If you've not listened to those 9 minutes, it's on the Tennessee Holler on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Listen to it. It's horrifying. We have to fight back against that. Nathan is right. We have to mobilize our own base to turn out before we even worry about persuasion. Thank you for saying the hard stuff. If we got to turn out our people, I'm not going to go knock a door and beg a Republican to vote, but I'm going to knock the neighbor's door and beg that Democrat who's a Democrat who hasn't voted to vote, right? So, I mean, it's about engaging our own people. We are one of the lowest turnout states in the country, for God's sake. And that's its own voter suppression that the Republicans put on us. They've gerrymandered us to a point, and we have taught us and said to us over and over, your vote doesn't matter because it's a Republican red district, a ruby red district. Bullshit. I call bullshit on that. Sorry, I hope no one has their kids listening. Sorry, I'm sorry. I call BS on that. We are a low turnout state. We are not a red state, or we are a low bloody turnout state. Drag your neighbors to the polls. Register your kids to vote. Make sure if you've got kids that they're registered to vote and that their friends are registered to vote, and tell them why it matters. Nancy, feel free to unmute and speak. Nancy Bibler. And then we'll start wrapping this up in about 10 minutes. Nancy? You have to unmute, Nancy.
Okay.
Oh, there you are. Hi, Nancy.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's all right.
This is a sort of peripheral issue, but a few days ago, there was a posting on Facebook of someone in a First Watch restaurant, which I like to go to for brunch, with I think it's a revolver very plainly displayed in his hip pocket. And is there some way, I mean, can a restaurant refuse to let someone in with a, how can you know if you go into a restaurant that has somebody carrying a weapon? Is there any way to do that?
I don't know, because I think that was one of the bills they were trying to pass, was that, and I don't know. So Yusuf, if you can answer this, because I think you know, because they were trying to push something through. I don't know the answer to this.
Well, currently, you can carry a gun into a restaurant. Where is that? Texas Roadhouse. I mean, it sort of startled me, but I saw just that. And so again, it goes back to our voices not being heard. And I guess one way to do that is to vote. And
the restaurant itself can block them from bringing a gun in. But the law says they can carry it.
Yeah, that's what Yusuf's trying. Yeah.
So can you go in and say, do you allow people in here to carry guns? I mean, and then turn around and walk out if they say yes?
Yes, you can do that.
You can do that?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know. Thank you.
I think it's incumbent on businesses to, Wendy notes that private businesses can post the no gun signs. And I think it's incumbent on every business to post those signs. Don't bring your gun in here. I just think that there's a lot of narrative around this that we can take charge of. You know, Ted Cruz said, oh, we need to manage our schools like they're banks. We need to arm everybody. Well, a bank had a mass shooting at a bank in Louisville. So clearly that's not the answer. We need to arm our teachers. Really? That's what we're going to do? We're going to give teachers who have 6-year-olds guns? That's the answer? Obviously not. Get more guns is not the answer. More guns is never the answer. And so we have to push back on Republican BS every time they say it. Every time they say it, we got to push back. We know what's right. We know what our legislators need to do for us. We need to support them. And this is where I'm going to make a hard ask. It is not enough to just go vote if you can't. You got to support these legislators by donating to them, or donating to your county party, or donating to the state party. If you are in a position to make a donation, it's expensive to run for office, particularly when you're running as a Democrat, because it is very easy to fundraise as a Republican because everyone says, oh, he's going to win anyway. And it's not that easy to run as a Democrat and raise money because people think they're giving it to a useless cause. No, it is expensive to run for office. It is expensive to be a candidate. Even signs are expensive. And then you got to hire somebody to put signs in yards. It's expensive. So if you can't, no, that's great. Go knock doors, go volunteer with your county party, find a cause, find a candidate, find an activist, do something. But if you can, you need to donate because they need our money. They need our money to help them. It is expensive to be a Democratic candidate in Tennessee. It even for Yusuf, whoever's like, oh, it's a ruby, it's a blue, just no, he still can have an opponent. And we can't assume that he can't be beat. We have to always assume our Democrats can be beat. And we got to fund them, and we got to work for them, and we got to support them in every way. Nathan says, ask what meaningful work the party, the candidate, and the causes need, and then go do it. That's right. If you're helping a candidate, don't decide you know what's best. Call that candidate and say, hey, what can I do for you? Because you'll feel better about yourself, and you'll feel better about what you're contributing to good society, and you'll feel better about your civic duty that you're doing. You'll feel better. And when you feel better about what you're doing, it will show, and you'll bring somebody along with you. My job is, I'll be a little bit personal here for a minute. I struggle with being too defensive. My friends will tell me, you're too defensive. You take everything too personally. I take this personally. This is personal to me. My daughter goes to UTC. I don't know if you guys remember, last year, the year before, there was reports of someone walking around UTC with a long gun. Now it didn't happen. It scared the fire out of me. I spent the whole day scared. This is personal to all of us. Someone is affected by the bad policies that the Republicans are pushing forward. And if you think, oh, I don't know anybody that's gay, so that doesn't affect me. Yes, you do. You just don't know they're gay. If you think, oh, I'm never going to have an abortion, and I support people's right to have an abortion, but I'm never going to have one, so I don't need to worry about that. Your child might. Someone you love might. Someone you love right now might be struggling with being bullied at school for who they are. They might be thinking about what they need to do to end their own life because there's easy access to a gun at the neighbor's house. This is personal to all of us. We need to start acting like it. We need to take this personally because it's personal. We need to fund our candidates, fund our county parties, fund our state party, knock on doors, fund bank, write postcards, talk to your neighbors, go to community events and talk to people there. Ask what you can do, ask how you can help, and then go do it. And we're going to start having these forums like this because I can see how beneficial this is to all of it, to everyone. I'm going to get a Representative Akeem on the, we're going to put you on the schedule for a monthly or quarterly one of these forums, because I think it's important that we're talking to you guys and not just at a meeting where we're asking you to work, where we can talk about what's going on at the legislature or what's going on at the county commission or what's going on with Marsha Blackburn. We can have these conversations. I think this is a good forum to do that. And I hope that all of you have found this moment to be beneficial. So I don't think anybody else has their hands up. Oh, Jill and Joan. Jill first, then Joan.
I just wanted to say that here in Hamilton County, we are in budget season for all of the elected bodies. The school board is working on its budget. I'm very excited about what our administration has done and what we are doing and the investment that we are trying to make in building school infrastructure, staffing infrastructure that are focused on child well-being and student well-being so that teachers can get back to teaching. It's a huge plan. It's a huge investment. We're doing wonderful things, but there might be a fight at the county commission. So I need y'all to stay engaged, pay attention. The county we're going to be voting on our budget at the May meeting, and then it's going to the county commission, and they're going to be voting on it in June. Mm-hmm. There are talks that the county commission is going to try to, or some people in the county commission want to withhold the growth money that they've always given us for the last 20-something odd years. And that would mean that we wouldn't be able to give our teachers the 5% raises that we're trying to give them, or fund our capital maintenance fund the way we want to fund it. And so we might be calling on you guys to get in touch with your county commissioners to support fully funding the budget and giving us our growth money. So just stay tuned.
I'm gonna go to Joan next, and then Angela, you're saying stuff online that I want on chat that I want you to say out loud. So I'm going to come to you, and then I'll go to Brenda. But I'm going to say this one thing about what I've witnessed at City Council the last month. They're coming to City Council to make public comment, and they're being vile and ugly to our City Council members, particularly our Black City Council members. It's very clearly a targeted racist attack. So if they can go there, we can go there. If they can go to county commission, we need to go to county commission. We need to show up and support our commissioners. They need to know that we value them. And the school board members, we need to show up and support. They need to know that we value them. Over and above knocking doors and things, we need to show up too. And if we show up in numbers, those extremists won't make us feel so afraid. It's always nice when I go to council and Dixie and David are there to sit next to me and not make me feel so nervous. I'm always grateful when they're there. And the last few times that I've been there to talk, she's been there. And he's been there and it's been great. We've had some of the new organizations there. We know where they're going to be on Wednesdays. We know where they're going to be on Tuesdays. We know where when the school board is going to have their meeting. Let's support our own elected officials so that they'll want to do it again, because it's a disheartening job and demoralizing job, I'm sure. So they know we're there for them. So I can start putting out a call to action on the days that Jill and Ben need us at the county commission, and we'll get there and we'll support you. Let's see, Joan, you're next.
Well, you might have answered my question, but like, I'm not particularly involved. I don't have young kids. And so, like, what can I do this week when I get off this call? Or what can I do tomorrow? Because I find that if you don't do something immediately, it just goes by the wayside.
Julie, can you Julie, can you put in the chat the interest form for the HCDP, the new one? Yep. Fill this form out. It'll at least get you started with the HCDP. You can join a committee or a caucus for organizing purposes. Jill says her school board meeting is next Thursday. Let's all plan on being there to support her. You can keep putting pressure on your Republican legislators. You can keep calling them and emailing them and writing them letters. Never, ever, ever take the pressure off of them. They don't deserve to be pressure free. Just keep hearing from them. Okay. That's one of the things that you can do. All right. Another thing that you can do is start talking to your neighbors and start thinking, if it's not you, who do you know that's a good community leader where you live, in your neighborhood association, in your community, in your church, that would be a good candidate, and send them to us. Okay. Talk to them about running for office and then support them in that. That's the next thing that we can do. But fill out this form in the chat and we'll plug all of you in. Let's see, Angela, I would like to call on you for just a minute, because Angela is, she is one of our good friends at the Hamilton County Democratic Party. She's also a member of the Moms for Social Justice in Chattanooga. And she is where we need to see her. We always see her. And she said some pretty uplifting things in the chat. So I just wanted to give her a chance to say them out loud so we could hear them from your voice.
Hello. Something I feel is some of the rhetoric there is that you hear a lot of language cornered around, freedom, patriotism, and what that truly looks like. And when we're talking about language to those, in the community about that, like freedom and patriotism means being able to let my kids choose books. That means being able to have bodily autonomy and make those decisions with my doctor, and just what patriotism looks like is, asking questions and doing what's best for everybody, right? So some of that language, that's just kind of a piece of mind. But I wanted to talk on also with us, we're pretty education focused. And something Jill was talking about, we're trying to work with, I've started conversations with Unify Ed to possibly get some more support and pressure on county commission, and maybe start some campaigns there about that. And then also learning more about how TISA, how really convoluted it has been. And TISA, for those that don't know, that's the funding program that they changed over the last year of how they fund our schools, and it's money follows the student. But our state, at least to the average person, I'm not sure how detailed our school board members have gotten. I still feel like that's still pretty muddy for them too. But it doesn't give us really good laid out plans of how they're counting each child. Someone shared with me today that we have a school that'll have 180% capacity, and they're going to lose 9 teachers according to how TISA will land. And so they need that growth money. That's huge, because we're also going to have to account for a buffer of what our state is saying they're going to give us, but what actually may happen are going to be probably 2 different things. Yeah. So we might need to account for that as well, and make sure that that growth money goes where it needs to go. And I think having some youth-led student pressure on our county commission, it was very impactful in getting the nudge for Tyner. I think having some youth-led speaking on funding our students and keeping them safe and what safety looks like to them is different than what all the grownups at the table may think that looks like. Yeah. Having that conversation at our county commission, school board, wherever we can get some kids to stand up and speak up, they're ready, they're there, but they're a little disillusioned with some of the decisions our adult leaders make But if we can get them face to face and get them engaged, it won't be that hard. They're ready.
Yeah. They just need a nudge. They need to know that they have people standing behind them, supporting them, that they're not up there all alone.
The invitation. Yep. The invitation.
That's right. They're not up there all alone. Thank you, Angela.
Thank you.
Okay, Brenda.
Thank you, Rachel, for organizing this meeting. It's been awesome. Well done.
Thank you. I was trying to write out a big email about all the things we could talk about and do, and I realized, no, let's just talk. Let's just talk.
It's
So
great. It was well done.
Thank you. We've gone for an hour and a half, and I think most of you are probably hungry or ready for dinner. I've decided that we're going to do this more often. So look for another Zoom link in the next month or so. We're going to do this more often. It appears to be an effective way of organizing you guys to have the questions that you need answered. And we'll make sure that we get people from the TNDP here as well to talk. So not just your local people, but we'll drag Nathan back to talk about youth engagement, and we'll drag the caucus and the representatives back here to talk to. So I thank you for taking your time out of your day. I hope you will all fill out this interest form. You're not giving your firstborn child away. Just come help us. We need some help. And it's fun. We're fun people. So thank you, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and stop this call now. And I hope that I get to see all of you very soon. Have a good day or night, I guess. Have a great night. Yusuf, thank you so much for being on tonight. Thank you.